So this video is about how to listen to the voice within your heart. And the big problem that most people have is like, David, I can't listen to the voice in my heart. I don't even know what my heart is, let alone how to listen to it. And there's been songs written about it, listen to your heart. There's been poems written about it. There's been stories, love stories written about it. But the big problem is that there's no one that's actually teaching how to actually listen to the voice within your heart. And the bigger problem is that everyone has this, but they're not connected with it. And I see that with my clients time and time again. They're very good at listening to the voice that goes through their head, and it goes something like this in the head. It's like, what little voice? I don't have a little voice. There's no little voice in that. What is this guy talking about? And so it's got like all of this like judgment happening within their head voice, but within the heart voice, it's just a soft, gentle voice that speaks a very profound wisdom. Everyone has it. You have it. But for the most part, we're disconnected from it. And what happens is instead we start, as a society in general, we start listening to the voice within the head. And it's often quite negative, it's often quite judgmental. It tends to put yourself and others down, and it's often quite hard on other people and yourself as well. And that's why there's so much stress, there's so much anxiety, there's so much overwhelm in society, because everyone is listening to the voice of the head and they've forgotten about listening to the voice of the heart. And that's where all of the problems stem from, because they're not listening and taking the directions from their heart. And I used to be in the exact same position, like when I was working as an engineer, okay, in a professional sense, and I was very successful in that world. And perhaps you're successful too, because when you listen to the head and you're operating from the head towards other heads, you can become successful in that. But I wanted to go deeper into my heart, into the experience of being alive, and that's when I chose to do something about it. So at the time, it was back in the 1990s, and I was studying 2 degrees, engineering and commerce, and I'd had enough. I'd come to that breaking point where I was getting like straight A's. I was, on the social committee, I was a champion athlete, and everything in my outside world looked like I was being successful. I was like going out with the boys, I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was going down the traditional path of a successful engineer. But on the inside, it was a different story. This was so loud that sometimes I couldn't even sleep at night because I closed my eyes, and it'd just be all this busyness, all these worries and stresses and anxieties and projections of how bad the future is going to be, and projections of how bad I did things in the past, and I'm never actually in the present. And I knew that for the rest of my life that was going to be my experience, and I was looking for something deeper. So I ended up leaving for 12 months. I took a leave of absence and went on this big rite of passage with a surfboard and a tent. And it was very difficult. Like, I wanted to do it, but I didn't want to go as well, because I was very comfortable where I was. But I knew there was something deeper. I didn't know how to explore that. But eventually I put the process in place. I took to the head of the department, my parents, my family, my friends, and let them know what I was going to do to explore this deeper experience. And when I left, I had no idea what I was doing, okay? All I knew is that in nature, something peaceful arose. During that period, I came into my heart, the business of my mind slowed down. I came into my heart, and the more I came into my heart, there was like this little whisper inside there. And I remember this one time, I just learnt surfing. I'd been surfing for about 2 months. I didn't even really know how to duck dive under the waves. And there was this surfing break called Flat Rock on the east coast of Australia. And it was a massive day. It was probably 10, 12 feet, these waves, right? And I was so scared to go out. Like, I'd never been in anything like that before. And the waves were sucking up dry onto this reef, so the rock was almost exposed, okay? And if I was listening to my head, I would have just sat on the beach all day and just watched these surfers get amazing waves. But because I'd come into my heart, and I was listening to it and following it. I actually had the courage to follow what it said, and it said, well, grab your surfboard, and my head was like, what the hell are you doing? And then it said paddle out, and I'm like, okay, and I just followed the voice of my heart, paddled out, duck diving under these waves. I'd never done that before, but it's like, yeah, put the board deep. I'm like, okay, I'll put the board deep. And it's like this gentle whisper. And I finally got out the back, and my heart's like racing, my head's screaming, what are you doing? Go back in, you're gonna get killed. And there was a pack of surfers, like really good surfers. I was a complete beginner, had no idea what I was doing. And I'm listening to my voice, the voice of my heart. And it said, well, paddle over into the middle. And normally I'd sit on the outside of the surfers and let them get the good waves. So I did, I followed that subtle voice within and sat in the middle of these surfers, and they all sort of looked at me. They could sort of tell I was a beginner, and they're like, I could tell they were thinking, what's this guy doing, right? And I was in between the big waves, in between the sets. And then I looked on the horizon, I could see this lump forming on the horizon, and it was a wave, and I'm listening to my heart, the voice of my heart, and it said paddle, and I'm like, what do you mean paddle? And it said, well, paddle for the wave. It only uses short words, short sentences, paddle for the wave. So I turned around, started paddling, and I could feel the back of my board like lift up like this, and I was looking down, and it was like a 10-12 foot drop, and I could see the reef below, and I knew, my head was like, you're gonna die. But my heart was like, paddle hard. So I paddled as hard as I could and started taking the drop down this face of the wave. I could feel all of the wind and the spray coming up into my face, and my heart's like, go. So I stood up on my feet, and I'm like cruising, falling down this wave, and something else took over. There's a pull on my heart, and I just let my heart guide me, and went down and did this huge bottom turn. I didn't even know what a bottom turn was at the time. I looked up, and I could see the wave starting to crash over the top of me, and my head was screaming, you're going to die. But I just let my heart guide me, and I went up the top of the wave and actually hit the lip with the board and did this floater down, and it was incredible. Everything was in slow motion, just completely in the flow. I did a couple of like cutbacks. I didn't even know what a cutback was, but I was just allowing my heart to guide me. And then eventually the wave started to peter out into the white water, and I came off my board, and I'm just sitting there completely in shock, like, wow, what was that all about? And my head was saying, wow, go do it again, you know. But I tuned into my heart, listened to what it had to say, and it said, okay, it's time to go in now. And I'm like, okay. And I followed that, caught a white wave in, went onto the beach, picked up my board, took a few deep breaths. My body was like shaking, but inside I was feeling really calm. And I'm walking up the beach, and this guy said to me, came up and he said, whoa, where did you learn to surf like that? And I was listening to my heart, and it just said, yeah, look, and I spoke the words, look, I'm a beginner, I've been surfing 2 months. And he's like, wow, you can go professional, you know. And I tuned in, and I'm like, yeah, thank you, but there's really no point. And what I learned from that is that there's this guidance, there's a force that's always guiding me, and it's within my heart. It's not within my head. What I think about, if I had been listening to my heart, to my head, there's no way I would have even gone out in those waves that day. But instead I came into my heart, and it allowed me to get one of the best waves of my whole entire life. And what happened over the next couple of weeks is, like, I stayed in that spot. I wanted to like go back into my head, and my head was really, really loud, but instead I stayed in my heart and listened to what it had to say, and all these amazing experiences opened up. It's like a synchronicity opened up. It's like everything that wanted to happen happened. Okay, and that's the power of listening to the voice within your heart. It guides you despite what your head says. And that's what I do with my coaching clients, is that I teach them how to come into that. There's like 6 techniques that I teach. Ultimately, not just to come into your heart and listen to it, but then to live your life from your heart. So if that's something that you'd like to explore, maybe you've been sitting on the fence about this, but book a call with me. It's a free call. Just book a date and a time, and there's a short application. It'll take like 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll call you. And it's a powerful call, because on that call, you'll learn how to get out of this like constant spinning in your head. You'll get out of like this judging voice within your head. You'll get out of all of the negative stuff that it says. You'll get out of all of the limitations that this head voice places on your life, and instead you'll come into a deeper truth within you. You'll come into a space within you that speaks the truth, that is connected with the divine. There's an innate wisdom that resides within everyone. It resides within you. You know, like, and if you're sick of being stuck in this space of spinning round and round and round, and you like to get into a space of freedom by coming into your heart, listening to the voice within your heart, allowing it to guide you, then book a call. If you're on the fence, you've got nothing to lose. Free call, 45 minutes, and we get super clear on what's actually happening for you in your experience. We get clear on where it is that you'd really like to be living your life from, and we'll come up with steps on how you can make that transition from your head to your heart. So I encourage you, you know, and it does take courage. The word courage comes from the French word cœur, which means heart, and rage, which, you know, means the rage, right? So for me, courage is the rage of the heart. So if there's this pull within you to step into another world that's full of peace, love, joy, connection, synchronicities, then book a call, right? Just book a date, a time for that short application, and I'll call you at that time. And we'll talk about, what is going on for you, where it is that you'd like to be, and the steps that we can do to make that a reality for you. So I look forward to talking with you soon. David Stiles, thank you for watching this video. Book a call today, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.